The train was late, and so were their lives. Elena sat with a book in hand, though she wasn't reading it. Her fingers traced the edges absently. Across from her, Liam sipped lukewarm coffee, glancing out the window, lost in his own quiet questions. When their eyes met, it wasn't dramatic, it was curious, like two minds brushing against each other before words found meaning. She asked him if he believed in fate. He said no, but he believed in timing. That sometimes, people arrive not when we expect them, but when we most need to be seen. That made her smile genuine, if slightly sad. She hadn't felt seen in a long time. They exchanged names, not histories. He was from Ireland, traveling with no fixed plan. She was from Spain, heading home from a conference. Married, she mentioned, without emphasis. It hung in the air like a disclaimer, not a commitment. He spoke about light, how he chased it through cities with his camera. Not for the picture, but for the emotion it captured. Light tells the truth, he said. Elena replied, so does silence. He looked at her longer than he should have. She didn't look away. They talked philosophy next, how love isn't just a feeling but an alignment. Of time, of wounds, of recognition. She quoted Rilke. He countered with something Hemingway once said about how we're all broken, but that's how the light gets in. He liked metaphors. She liked honesty wrapped in them. The conversation was effortless but carried weight. It wasn't flirtation, not yet. It was the comfort of being heard without translation. She confessed how she sometimes imagined walking away from everything, responsibility, routine, reputation. Just disappearing. He nodded. Then why don't you? She replied, because real life has names and faces. And guilt. A pause lingered. He shifted, but stayed. Maybe guilt is the price for not being selfish enough, he said. She looked at him, really looked. Not as a stranger, but as someone who might understand the shape of her loneliness. He showed her a photo of a child playing with shadows on a wall. Moments like this, he said. No setup. No posing. Just, there. She held the image longer than necessary. It's beautiful, she said. Because it's temporary, he added. The train announcement interrupted them. Still delayed. She laughed, soft, almost grateful. So we have more time, she said. He nodded. Enough for a walk. She agreed, with a quick glance at the clock, like she needed permission from the day. They left the cafe, not as companions, but as two people quietly choosing not to be alone. There was no plan, no expectation. Just the warmth of something undefined yet impossible to ignore. And behind them, the station clock ticked on, as if keeping count of a story neither of them meant to start. They walked without a map, letting silence fill the spaces between their thoughts. Elena asked him if he ever got tired of drifting. He said no, because drifting let him arrive without expectation. When nothing is planned, he said, everything feels more real. She nodded, not in agreement, but in recognition. They spoke of their pasts, not in confession, but in fragments. Elena mentioned a childhood memory, how her father once told her that love should never feel like duty. He died before I learned what he meant, she added. Liam shared how he left someone behind years ago, not because he didn't love her, but because he couldn't stay still. Some of us are built to leave, he said. Even when we don't want to. They stopped talking for a while. Not awkward, just present. Their steps synchronized without trying. When she asked if he believed people could truly connect in one day, he said it didn't take time, just honesty. We waste years hiding from ourselves, he added. But one day of truth can be enough. A musician played nearby, and they listened. Liam said music was the purest form of vulnerability. It asks for nothing but to be felt. Elena said that's how she used to feel about poetry until life made her choose practicality over passion. He told her it wasn't too late. She replied, that's what people say when they don't understand consequences. She asked why he never settled. He said settling felt like slowly drowning in shallow water. She laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was uncomfortably accurate. He noticed her gaze soften. Not romantic, but unguarded. She was beginning to forget she had walls. As they passed a narrow alley, He asked if she believed emotional intimacy was a form of cheating. She paused, then answered, "It depends what part of yourself you give away." Liam didn't press further. Her words carried their own weight. They sat in a quiet spot. He took a photo of her without asking. She didn't object. She just looked at him and whispered, "You'll forget me by next week." He said, "I don't take photos to remember faces. I take them to remember feelings." She turned away, but he caught the way her fingers touched her ringless hand. Time slipped by unnoticed. She leaned closer during a conversation about truth in fiction. He said he liked stories that didn't end cleanly. "Closure is overrated," he added. "Sometimes all we get is the moment." He asked about her husband only once. She replied with silence. Not cold, just complicated. Then she changed the subject. He didn't push. She noticed that, and somehow it made her trust him more. By the time the light began to dim, their conversations had stopped sounding like small talk. They weren't strangers anymore, not quite lovers, not friends either. They were something else. Something nameless but real. And neither of them wanted the sun to set. Not yet. She asked him why he never stayed anywhere long enough to be hurt. He replied, "Because staying means risking being known. And being known means being vulnerable." She didn't argue. She understood too well. He finally asked about her marriage, not out of curiosity, but care. She hesitated, then said, "It's quiet. Predictable. Safe." He waited. She added, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm still in love or just loyal to the life we built." He said nothing. She didn't need validation, just space to say it out loud. The sky turned dark, and the air between them shifted. He spoke of betrayal not as a villain's act, but as a symptom. "People don't betray out of malice," he said. "They do it when they stop feeling alive." She didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Then came her truth. "I haven't felt alive in years." It wasn't dramatic. It was resigned. Liam looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, there was no barrier. No roles. No pretense. He reached for her hand. She let him. No resistance. No apology. The silence that followed was full, dense with meaning neither could name. When their lips met, it wasn't out of lust or impulse. It was the slow collapse of restraint. Deliberate. Measured. Heavy with consequence. No words followed. They didn't need them. What they felt had already been said in glances, pauses, unfinished thoughts. She rested her head on his shoulder, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like the world had paused in their favor. But it didn't last. Her phone buzzed. A message from her husband, "Hope your trip went well. Can't wait to see you." She read it twice. Guilt spread across her face like a shadow. Liam noticed. He didn't ask, but the energy shifted. She stood, needing distance. "This shouldn't have happened," she said, not with anger, but sorrow. "But it did," he replied. She looked at him, equal parts regret and longing. "What do we call this?" He shrugged. A moment of truth in a life full of pretending. She wiped a tear before it could fall. "You make it sound poetic." He smiled sadly. "That's the only way I know how to survive it." The final train announcement played. Her ride home. Reality calling. He asked her to stay. Just once. "We don't have to figure it out. Just don't go yet." She shook her head slowly. "If I stay, I lose who I'm supposed to be. If I go, I lose what I just found." She stepped closer, pressed her forehead to his. "Thank you for showing me what I forgot existed." Then, without another word, she walked away. He watched her board the train, his hand still warm from where hers had been. The engine roared. The platform emptied. All that remained was the weight of something real, now gone. He took the photo from his pocket. The one of her, smiling unknowingly. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. But in that silence, everything was said. 6 months passed without a single message. He hadn't expected one, but part of him hoped anyway. Hope was cruel like that, quiet, persistent, always whispering maybe. Liam had returned home, or something close to it. He didn't stay long in one place, but lately, he lingered more than usual. Still photographing, still searching for moments that felt like her. He'd published a small book. Nothing grand, just images from cities and faces that never spoke. On the inside cover, he wrote one line, "For the woman who reminded me silence can be beautiful." No name. No need. One photo stood out: Elena at a cafe, reading that poem with her brow slightly furrowed, caught between memory and distraction. He never edited that one. He kept it raw. It was the only picture he never captioned. He spoke of her rarely. When friends asked, he'd say he met someone once who changed everything in a day. Most nodded, assuming it was a romanticized fling. He never corrected them. How could he explain that it was more than love, and yet never quite love at all? He still wore the watch he'd bought that morning. A simple, analog one. She'd admired it, asked if he liked old things because they reminded him time was still real. He said no, he liked them because they ticked loudly, as if trying to stay alive. She had returned to her life, just as she said she would. Back to routine, her husband, her name. She kept the ring on again. Most days it didn't bother her. Some days it felt like armor. On quiet mornings, she'd sit by the window and open that same book of poems. A habit now. A ritual. She never read past the page she read to Liam. Her husband noticed she smiled less, asked if everything was okay. She always said yes. It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. She hadn't told anyone. Not because she was ashamed, but because the memory was hers alone. Intimate in a way even confessions couldn't touch. Sometimes she'd remember how Liam had looked at her not for what she was supposed to be, but for who she was when no one was watching. That gaze haunted her in the gentlest way. Liam once said that not all stories are meant to be lived forever. Some just exist to remind you you're still capable of feeling. She never forgot that. They never crossed paths again. No surprise. Some people are meant to meet you once and leave a mark deep enough to echo without repetition. Their story had no sequel, no closure. Just a quiet ending and the echo of something almost real. In the end, betrayal didn't scream. It whispered. In the way she paused before kissing him. In the way he didn't stop her. In the way she looked back one last time, not with regret, but with something harder to name. And sometimes, that's all a story needs to last forever.